So I was already comparing this guy to China Mieville, and then he decides for his second book, just like in China Mieville's fantasy series, he decides to make his second book a seafaring adventure as well. Hello everyone, Britton here, also known as Some Okie Dude, and I'm back today with a review, and the book I'm going to be reviewing today is Red Seas Under Red Skies from Scott Lynch, which is the second book of the Gentleman Bastard sequence. Which I really enjoyed, so let's get into this. So after reading The Lies of Locke Lamora, which I've already covered, which I will link down below so you guys can go check that out, I immediately wanted to check out the other books in this series because I really deeply loved The Lies of Locke Lamora. If you didn't see my video already and see me fawning over it, you probably knew that I enjoyed this book. Now, a lot of people were telling me that the other two books are not as good as The Lies of Locke Lamora. Well, I say rubbish, because Red Seas Under Red Skies I felt was just as enjoyable, was just as enjoyable is what I meant to say, just as well written and as inventive and heartfelt as the first book was. I have to say, once again, that one of the things I love the best about both Lies of Locke Lamora and this book is Lynch's prose style and his storytelling. I love the way he describes things. It's almost like when you're reading this book, you're having a nice glass of wine and a good meal. It almost feels like you're eating at like a 5-star restaurant. Like it's wonderful. I love the prose of this book. It has a very Baroque quality. And, you know, I geeked out about it in the first book review that I did, and I continue to geek out about it now. I think the prose in this is great. And much like I did last time, I shall gift you with a dramatic reading of the second book like I did the first one, just to give an idea on the prose style and why I love it so much. They were inside a walled and roofed garden, at least 40 feet high, filled with willow, witchwood, olive, citrus, and amberthorn trees. Black, brown, and gray trunks stood in ranks beside one another, their vine-tangled branches reaching up in vast constellations of bright leaves that entwined above the river like a roof beneath the roof. Great stuff. Very soaring prose. But once again, Lynch shows, if you didn't already get it from this part of the novel, Lynch once again showcases his prowess at description, and he really manages to flesh out the world of, I am probably going to butcher this, Tel Varar, which is the place where Locke and Jean are hanging out now. And there is a lot of great description. I love how he creates the world through the experiences of his character. There's very little info dumping. Well, very little. There's not a lot of exposition dumps. There's none of that. It almost feels like you're in this world along with these characters. And once again, Lynch has a very definite gift with description and really showing you what these places feel like. But Tel Varar is not a carbon copy of Camor, and Lynch manages to give it its own distinct flair and personality. And again, Lynch does do the flashback and present-day story in conjunction with each other, but it's not quite as prevalent as it is in the first book. This book is much more straightforward, and it feels like Lynch has settled into his style and has found his way, because though I will say The Lies of Locke Lamora is a very polished first novel, and it very much, it's written like somebody who's been writing for a while, and I think that Red Sea Under Red Skies keeps going with that. He keeps the ball rolling very nicely. There, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of seafaring adventure in this, and there's a lot of sea stuff. You know, superstition, there's a piracy element in this, and I loved it. I ate that up. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed the world building in this. Once again, it really feels like these places are, as I've noted before, the best world building to me is when the world feels like it's alive. It feels like you're right there amongst the characters, and it's not just, you know, an info dump about, oh, this city did this, or this place was it came from this king guy. I mean, I I don't care about any of that shit. If I can feel like I'm in the city along with the characters, then you got me. But once again, I find what makes this book really shine are the characters. I mean, Locke and John are still pulling scams, still pulling heists, and they are looking cool while doing it. Well, most of the time. They also make complete asses of themselves just as often. And once again, Lynch manages to showcase an ability of turning his character's strengths into weaknesses. And we also see that they're not completely unscathed after the events of the previous book. I mean, Locke is definitely a wreck. He definitely lost a lot of people in the previous book. I will not spoil specifically what happens, but they definitely went through a lot, and John is basically keeping him on his feet. I love the friendship between the two, and they haven't just been wounded physically, and they deal with a lot of bullshit, at least emotionally, throughout this book. I mean, they have lost a lot since the lives of Locke Lamora, and now it's just the two of them. And I really love how this book reinforces this beautiful friendship between these two guys and how much they need each other, even when they clash, even when they're getting into fights or whatever they do. They're almost like it's almost like they're married at some points. We even see moments of Locke grappling with his chaotic and destructive tendencies, especially when it comes to himself. We see him deal with the fact that wherever he goes, it seems like chaos seems to follow, because he is the Thorn of Comorn. And there's a great scene in the book where he's at this place that has these really vicious, it's kind of like the Olympics, and of course Locke is horrified by this, and he thinks about doing his Thorn of Comorn thing, and I like how it's almost like a conversation between himself and that part of himself that desires to destroy, that desires to create chaos. It's really fascinating stuff. So this is not just a Lies of Locke Lamora 2. Though there is there is bits of that, of course. There are consequences from the previous book. We see some old friends and enemies come into play, and we meet a lot of new ones. A lot of the new characters that were introduced were a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed a lot of them. Yes, even the villains. My favorite, though, was Ezri, because Ezri is just... damn. John, you lucky man. Anyway, I really enjoyed her. She has a lot of spunk. She really plays well off the guys, and none of the new characters in this book really feel like they're out of place. And again, Lynch has a way of making his characters come to life off the page that many fantasy authors don't have. You know, my buddy Jason actually asked me the other day if there was a time I've read a fantasy novel and I really got where I was really emotional. Well, I can say that Red Sea Under Red Skies has a lot of emotion in it and a lot of heart, much like the last one. Especially now, not just with the friendship between Locke and John, but there's also a romance in this that I thought was really well done, and I thought was genuinely beautiful at points. Now, of course, I'm not going to spoil how that ends, but what I will say is, well, you're gonna have to find out. But I really enjoyed the romance in this book. I know a lot of fantasy fans, there's the stereotype, we don't like romance, yada yada. But I'm telling you, the romance in this book is really, really good, and I thought was really touching and beautiful, I might dare say. And I thought it was a really nice touch to this book that really gave it a lot more of emotional stakes, but also a lot of where the heart comes from this book, again, is the friendship between John and Locke. I mean, they're basically married at this point. I mean, they're basically like a married couple a lot of the time, and I really enjoy their dynamic and just how much they need each other. And it picks up very nicely. And what I like about this book is that it carries the friendship from the first book that we already got, expands upon it, and sees some of their own weaknesses. We get to see that they're not always in sync, that sometimes they want different things, but at the same time they love each other, they need each other. And I mean, that's beautiful. I think it's beautiful. And a lot of people say that John and Locke are some of like best friendships in fantasy, I have to say I agree. The way that Lynch expands on the friendship in this book was really, really good, and I really do recommend that. Again, it's just a beautiful. It's beautiful, and I think Scott Lynch really did well with that. I don't have. Excuse me. I don't have a lot of problems with this book so much. I mean, I definitely prefer. I definitely prefer The Lies of Locke Lamora, but don't get me wrong, though. This is a fantastic book all on its own. Now, I would recommend reading them in chronological order, because while you could probably read this as a standalone and be fine, there are events from the first book that are touched upon in this, and if you just read this by yourself, you might get a little confused. But you could read this on its own. But I guess my only real problem with this, and it's very small, but it's really that when Locke and John finally scheme and lie and manipulate their way out of another mess that they end up creating, inadvertently, I might dare say, it didn't quite have the oomph. I didn't quite go when like I did in the Lies of Locke Lamora, and yes, I did practice that. But anyway, I did prefer The Lies of Locke Lamora. I just had a lot more emotional investment in that story. But don't get me wrong, there was a lot of emotion in this story, and it was very well done in this book as well. It is still a very well done, well written, enjoyable experience, and I am very excited to get to the Republic of Thieves. Though I have heard that one is probably the weakest one of the 3 books that have come out so far. But I have a bad habit of figuring things out for myself, so I want to see that. But Red Seas Under Red Skies is a fantastic novel, another great addition to the Gentleman Bastard sequence, and a fantasy novel I think everyone should read. It's definitely a fantastic read, and I think a lot of you guys should go and read it, because it's just, I'm repeating myself at this point. It's a great book. It's a great time. If you want to have fun, but if you also want an emotional experience, read Red Sea Under Red Sky. I would recommend reading The Lies of Locke Lamora first, and I actually like The Lies of Locke Lamora the best out of these 2 so far, but I am definitely I'm hoping that Scott Lynch puts out more Gentleman Bastard content, and I heard that he will be putting out some new ones. But I'm glad that I waited until now to read Red Sea Under Red Skies, as well as The Lies of Locke Lamora, because they are both excellent books, and I recommend that everyone should read this. I don't mean, sorry for the dead air, but yeah, excellent book, Red Sea Under Red Sky, and that's basically all I got for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go check out my Twitter, check out my Letterboxd and Goodreads, where I write reviews that are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. I hope you guys also enjoy the goatee. You can also check me out on Discord. You can come talk to me on there. Feel free, please. I would love to talk to you all. And read Red Sea Under Red Skies. Do it.